and welcome to the Divorce Women's Guide podcast, where we talk about the things us divorcees are thinking, but not always talking about, as we turn our divorce into the best gift we've ever been given. And I do so with a little bit of sass and a whole lot of class. I am your host, Wendy Sterling, founder of the Divorce Rehab. I am here to support you in this transition phase of your life so you can start your new best chapter on your own terms. After all, that's what I did after my own divorce. And now it is my mission to change the conversation around divorce and help you see why your divorce, like mine, was the best gift you ever received. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. I am so happy you've tuned in today because I am joined by my friend and colleague, Rebecca Zung. Hello, Rebecca. How are you?
Hello. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Me too. And I'm so excited about what we are going to talk about today, which is how to divorce a narcissist and when. So I'm going to tell our audience a little bit more about you. So Rebecca is one of the top 1% of divorce attorneys in the country and is a master negotiator, best-selling author, and media personality. She has been featured on Extra, Dr. Drew, NPR, Time, Forbes, and Huffington Post, and so many more. She is a popular YouTuber and is the creator of the program Slay Your Negotiation with a Narcissist. Rebecca, what a resume, my goodness. And I always love talking to you because you are a wealth of knowledge given your background. So I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit more about that, please.
About my background?
About your background, yes.
Okay. So I got married at 19 the first time. I mean, I always joke like I'm half Chinese and half German, which means that I have no fun genes whatsoever. It's all like work hard, very organized, efficient. So I graduated second in my class from high school and then when kind of derailed, I got married at 19 the first time. And my parents' dream at that point, I had 3 kids by the time I was 23 years old and then got divorced. And I had to put myself back to finish college and finish law school as a single mom. So I really understand what it's like to be a single mom and working your way to bootstrap your way into a better life for yourself and for your kids, because I did it. I met my husband in law school and we have a 17-year-old together. And in law school, while I was still in law school, I got a job with a divorce attorney who was one of the top attorneys in the state. And you know, I really had never planned to be a divorce lawyer. It was certainly never something I ever dreamed of or anything like that. But I got a really great opportunity to work with actually 2 lawyers who were fantastic. And, you know, the rest was kind of history. So I wrote a book in 2013 called Breaking Free, a step-by-step divorce guide, which is hence all the breaking free stuff that I have. I trademarked Breaking Free a long time ago. And so I wrote that. John Gray wrote a testimonial for it. He wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And that kind of opened up a lot of doors for me to start doing some national stuff and did a lot of that national press that way. And then in just 6 months ago, I published my second book called Negotiate Like You Matter, The Surefire Method to Step Up and Win. And Robert Shapiro wrote the foreword for that book. So I just kind of realized that it was, not just negotiating in general that I really felt like people needed the most, but negotiating with high conflict personalities and narcissists. And so I kind of just started this journey. I thought, well, let me do a couple of YouTube videos on it and see how it goes. And I really didn't know, I was kind of thinking I would just do negotiation in general. And then I was introduced to Dr. Ramani and we did some videos together and just sort of like all these things in my world were careening toward this was my path. And so I developed a course for it, and it's gone gangbusters, and my YouTube channel is going gangbusters. I mean, it was really just showing me that the universe is saying, you're on the right path. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So
It's amazing. And I love the work that you are doing, because so many of our listeners today are in a high conflict divorce and or one with a narcissist. And I know that you have a lot of experience in dealing with narcissists through negotiating with a divorce. So can you talk a little bit more about why that is a passion of yours, and why it is that you, are taking a focus in that arena?
well, I've been dealing with people who are difficult in my divorce, as a lawyer,
Sure.
for years. I know I've been practicing for more than 20 years. And, in the old days, it used to be like, oh, my husband is controlling or my wife is crazy. We didn't use the word narcissist like
Right.
we do nowadays. But, you know, as I've heard many people say, it's like, it doesn't even matter if they're actually diagnosed as a narcissist. If they're acting in ways that have no empathy for you, and completely self-absorbed, and it's and abusive, it doesn't, we don't need the diagnosis. You still have to go about doing the divorce the same way. And then on a personal note, I had to deal with a couple of covert narcissists in my life, and um, it just sort of all happened at the same time that all this was happening. I read a book called The Covert Passive Aggressive Narcissist back in December. I was jumping on a plane for Florida, to go back there for Christmas to be with my kids and everybody. And somebody said, oh, you should read this book. And I was reading it more like for information, for, if I was going to be doing these videos, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, two of the people that are in my life, this is what they are. And, it was a lot of pain and heartache and trauma to get these people out of my life. And so I was like, okay, universe, got it. I understand, like, you're giving me these lessons. It doesn't make it any easier. It still sucks on every single level. It was just horrible. But I've learned great lessons, and I can actually, sit and say to people, listen, top 1% divorce attorney, US News, best lawyers in America, Trend Magazine, top 1%, all these things that, these accolades that I have that show that I'm a great lawyer, but that doesn't mean that I was immune to being a target, victim, survivor, thriver
Right.
of these people, because they're really, really good at what they do. They're really, really good at what they do. They are master manipulators.
Absolutely. And I know that many people listening are subject to that. And you used a term, and I know that there are different kinds of narcissists out there. So you use the term covert narcissist. Would you mind explaining to our audience a little bit more about the different kinds of narcissists that there are out there?
Sure. There are three really kinds of narcissists. Now, sometimes they exhibit different traits so that, a covert can also be malignant or whatever, but covert, grandiose, and malignant are generally the three that you hear about. And the covert narcissist is what I call like the wolf in sheep's clothing. To the world, they seem kind, generous, nice, normal, wonderful people. And they are to 98% of the world. It's just when they pick a target, that's the person that they decide to, make their lives miserable. And then there's the grandiose narcissist, which is what I call like, your garden variety narcissist, the regular wolf, the regular person that goes around saying, look how great I am, look how smart I am, look at my big house, look at my nice car, the one that you think of as a narcissist. I mean, the covert narcissist, most people don't even realize that people like that are narcissists. They
Mhm.
think, well, maybe they're just insecure,
Mhm.
or maybe they just got a bad deal in life, or I can't believe that all these people are mistreating this person, you know. And then there's the malignant narcissist, which is the one that is, the most poisonous and toxic in a lot of ways. That's the one that will, tend toward stalking or violence or false reports of sexual abuse. And, they just literally don't give a crap how badly they ruin a person's life.
Right.
And so, but, a covert could be malignant, or grandiose could be covert sometimes, so it can be a little bit confusing, but in general, those are the three kinds.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a certain, um, they act a certain way in which those of us that are subject to narcissistic behavior on the receiving end of their behavior, that there are ways that us on the other side get to protect ourselves. So what are some of those ways that people can better arm themselves and protect them, especially during divorce against a
Yeah.
narcissist?
Sure. Well, I mean, the one thing I want to just kind of mention, though, is before I get to that,
Sure.
is that the type of person that a narcissist is mostly attracted to is not what you would think. It's
Mm.
not the beaten down, loser person. A narcissist only wants to be with people who are empaths. They want to be with people who give deep caring, lots of love, who are very generous, who have a lot going for them, because they want to be with people that, it elevates them to look good, to attach themselves to be with
Right.
that person. And so, I want people to understand, like, don't feel bad if you've been a victim of a narcissist, because that probably means you're a pretty awesome person,
Hmm.
So the kinds of things they do in divorce, a narcissist in general is pretty heinous to deal with, but in divorce, it's, on steroids. And so, yeah, they continue their campaign of denigration and gaslighting and all those things, but they also use the court system as a sword. They file all kinds of unnecessary motions. They accuse you of all sorts of things. They'll accuse you of child abuse or whatever. You're the bad parent. They will obstruct you from everything. So you try to get regular financial documents that you're entitled to. Well, you're not going to get them. They make you work for every single thing. They ignore court orders, which people can't even believe. They take everything you say and do and twist it and try to turn it against you. So they do all those kinds of things. Um, so what can you do to protect yourself? Be aware, first of all, of who you're dealing with. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things that people don't realize is that they're dealing with narcissists sometimes. Don't make excuses for the person. I think, a lot of times the empath will be the first one to step up and say, oh, he had a terrible childhood, or, oh, she's, you know, was sexually molested when she was 10 years old, and that's why she acts this way. That just opens yourself up for being taken advantage of. I mean,
Mhm.
you can have compassion for the fact that they might have had a bad childhood, but that doesn't mean that they get a free pass to treat people however they want as an adult.
Yeah, I agree. And there's an element to still, being empathetic, but also standing in your power of what your truth is. And when I talk a lot about narcissism, the biggest thing with a narcissist is that they're so afraid of being exposed that they also do anything to avoid, other people being seen, or other people seeing them outside of what fake reality world they've created for themselves,
Sure,
right?
of course. Yeah, of course.
And especially in a divorce, like the documents, don't lie, right? So do you believe that a lot of times why they avoid showing documentation is because they just don't sort of want that proof in paper, or?
Oh, I think that could be part of it, but
Mhm.
narcissists need an endless amount of supply, and supply for a narcissist can be what I call positive things, which are, look at my big house, look at my big job, look at my big bank account, look at all my stuff. But it could also be the negative stuff, which is denigrating, devaluing, making you squirm, manipulating. So they get supply from you squirming because you didn't get the documents that you wanted. You have to file and beg for it.
Right.
They like that.
Yes, they do. And I know so many clients, and I'm sure many of our listeners today who are in that position where they feel like they've been knocked down. They don't feel like they have any leverage to use against them because they've been so manipulated, right? Like some women for over 20 years have been mentally manipulated by these narcissists. So, what are some examples of ways that our listeners can gather examples or have pieces of leverage to use to build their case, to also stand their ground?
Sure. So my SLAY, your negotiation, I just want to point out that SLAY actually is an acronym for strategy, leverage, anticipate what the narcissist is going to do and being 2 steps ahead of them and focusing on you and your case. So the leverage piece is just a small piece of the entire strategy and the entire plan that you should be putting together.
Mhm.
But yes, leverage is a really important thing. And leverage is basically what I call motivation, incentive. If you want to just get back to the middle, which is wherever you think is fair, whatever the law provides for you, then you have to have leverage when you're dealing with a narcissist. It sounds counterintuitive because some people don't want to fight. They think, I don't want to fight. I just want this to be done. I just want to give him or her whatever they want and get the hell out of this thing.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't want to fight, then you have to have leverage. I mean, it's counterintuitive, but
Mhm.
leverage can be all different sorts of things. I mean, most people think of leverage as like the smoking gun, like the one thing that's definitely going to shame them the worst, and they'll sometimes people say to me, I don't have any leverage, but leverage is not just one thing most of the time. I mean, it could be like, oh, that he got herpes and gave it to the wife and he's a prominent doctor and he doesn't want the world to know. Yeah, that's a great piece of leverage, but most cases don't have that massive, huge thing like that.
Right.
Most cases, the leverage is going to be in the details. It's going to be doing your documentation and seeing day to day to day to day, like, oh, wow, we have this temporary parenting plan and she's not showing up on time 95% of the time. That's a great piece of leverage once you put it together in the form of a summary and an exhibit that you can use at mediation and say, judge is going to be seeing this. If and what if you don't want that, then I guess maybe you better settle today. But you got to have like 30 of those,
Right.
because if you just have one piece of leverage like that, then the narcissist is going to be like, whatever, go ahead, bring it on, I don't care. It's going to be the whole picture.
Right.
And more important to anything than anything to a narcissist is protecting their supply, protecting their ego. And so if they think that they're going to look bad in front of the judge, well, that's really good motivator for them.
Yeah, I agree. And it's bringing up a lot of memories from my own, divorce, just because I was in a similar place where I knew I had to gain multiple levels of leverage because one wasn't enough. I had to just document everything. There were multiple things, and it was all around exposing him. He didn't want to be exposed
Yeah.
beyond his attorney.
Yep. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that exposure piece is really, it's not like you said, I think it's worth repeating again. It's not just having one piece of evidence, it's multiple pieces that ladder back up to them being exposed and losing supply of their ego. I mean, that is crucial to this piece and crucial to anybody who is fighting against a narcissist, right?
Yeah, and it's all part of your strategy. And so once you have the leverage that while as you're building your leverage and building your strategy, you're not giving away anything. I mean, I tell people all the time, don't say, I've got this on you. You have to wait and use it at the right opportune time. You're basically, the narcissist is like an animal, a wild animal, and you're basically building an invisible cage around them while they don't even notice that it's happening. And you don't want them to look up and notice that there's a cage around them until you're ready. And that might be mediation, it might be a trial, but that's basically what you need to be doing.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important too, because so many times, and I hear about this from so many different people, and I'm sure people listening can relate to this, is, so many times we think that if we tell them evidence or it's almost like if we tell them too much, we're hurting ourselves in the long run. And, I always tell my clients a lot of times, like, don't go off and tell him what it is that you're doing, thinking that you're going to get him to change his mind, because you're actually only hurting yourself in the end with your own case, or even with how it is that you're going to wind up settling. That the first thing you need to resist is your urge to lash out at them, or to say, like, I'm going to use this against you. Just, it's almost like you just have to kind of like button it up and just write it down, document it, and keep it in your files of, instead of reacting to it, just hold on to it. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I know that you talked a little bit, you mentioned the acronym for SLAY. We talked about strategy a little bit. We talked about leverage. Would you mind also going through the A and the Y a little bit more with our audience?
Sure. Anticipating what the narcissist is going to do and being 2 steps ahead of them. So there's a couple of different levels to this. One is figuring out what kind of narcissist that you're dealing with, which I go through in the program, because you need to understand what to expect, what you're going to be seeing, and then preparing, accordingly. And then the other thing is anticipating the types of arguments that they're going to be making and being prepared. So I tell people to prepare as if you are that person. If I'm taking this side, this position, how am I preparing? Because I want to win. And so that way you can go, okay, let me refute that argument, that argument, that argument, and being prepared for that. So that's anticipation. And then focusing on you and your case. Inside the program, I have all kinds of ways to focus on you and your mental health, and to pivot, and to ways to get out of like that mindset, because they just really literally take over your brain. But also how to focus on your case, because a lot of times when people are dealing with narcissists, it's so easy because they give you so much material to just get caught up in how bad they are. Oh, she lied, or he did this, or he, and how are they getting away with this? And you just kind of want to focus your entire attention on how bad they are. But, all the best teams, if you have a great defense, but you have no offense, no one's scoring any points. So you have to be, what I teach people is how to get back to focusing on what the strengths are of your case. And then, that's your number one thing. And then as a secondary matter, okay, your defense.
What would you say is, for anybody listening and in the midst of negotiating with a narcissist, what is one piece of advice that you would give them today that they can take back with them to aid them in moving one step forward and feeling like they are winning?
Oh gosh, I mean, one piece of advice that if I had to only give one, it would be to document everything. Literally write every single thing down, even if it seems super insignificant, because you don't know what web it will be a part of down the road. So, just showed up on time today, or didn't, or called today, didn't call, whatever, like the teeniest little things. So if I'm only allowed one piece of advice, I would say that's probably the most important.
Yeah, and I could not agree with you more, having been through it myself. That was key to my own case. It was key to every element of what I was able to get at the end of the day. And it was, and even on top of that, it was ensuring that I had access to documentation, or knowing what to ask for in order to be able to also support some of those things that you were documenting.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? So
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, Rebecca, this has been hugely informative, and I am so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing, the education that you are giving to so many people out there. I would love to make sure that everybody can still get access to it and to you. So would you mind sharing with our listeners where they can find you and how best to interact with you?
Yeah, so I want to give a freebie for your listeners, which is a free negotiation. I call it my Crush My Negotiation Prep Worksheet, which it's like 13 or 14 pages. It's basically like an ebook, and it's totally free, and they can get that at winmynegotiation.com. So they just go to winmynegotiation.com and they can grab it for free. My website is Rebecca Zung, Rebeccazung. Same thing for my YouTube channel is just youtube.com/Rebecca Zung. And my podcast is Negotiate Your Best Life.
Which is an amazing podcast with amazing guests and amazing information. And everybody really should subscribe to Rebecca's YouTube channel. She knows her stuff. She has been doing this for such a long time. She's been a huge resource for my knowledge base as well. And I refer, we were just talking about it. I refer you out to so many different people that I come into contact with. So thank you for your generosity and the free gift. And all of that will be in the show notes, everybody. So be sure to click on all of the links that will be found in there. Rebecca, huge thanks again for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it was a pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in, sending you all lots of love and light. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this episode with someone you know or spread the word on social media. This is how I reach more divorcees around the world and provide them with the support they need to create their next best life. And I would also love to continue the conversation with you. So please friend me on Facebook, join my private Facebook group, The Divorce Rehab, and follow me on Instagram at Divorce Rehab with Wendy. I'll see you next time.